Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's edition of the Maconi Setup Shop A-Fix Tutorials. This week we are at one of the best mile-and-a-half racetracks on the schedule, and there is a lot to go over, so strap in and let's get to it. First thing that we're going to cover is the gear. We haven't talked about it in a while because most of these racetracks I feel like have been a fifth gear racetrack, or they've been road courses, so there hasn't been much to talk about in terms of gearing. Uh, but these 10 laps here, I ran in fourth gear. I'm sure in the race you might have to use fifth gear with the draft, but at least in solo car, the gear to me, fourth. I'm not chipping in fourth gear, and I'm using a lot of RPMs at the end of the straightaway, so it's nice to help slow the car down, and it also gives you some really good drive off. Earlier when I was running laps to make this video, I was trying in fifth gear and I was significantly slower, which is to be expected. But I do think in a race, if you are trying to save tire, if it's early in the race, if you were to run the white line along the bottom of the racetrack in fifth gear, I think that would be the best way to save your tires. It's obviously not going to be the fastest, but I do think that that would be the best way to save tires if you're trying to do that. Running the top or running the middle in fifth gear, you're not really going to be saving your tires as much, and you're going to be using a lot more throttle anyway to keep the car wound up. So I think the only time you'll be touching fifth gear or using fifth gear is if the draft is really strong and you need to use fifth gear, and you really want to save your tires by running the bottom. Otherwise, even if you are chipping at the end of the straightaways, that's not a bad thing if you're lifting relatively soon from when you hit the chip. But if you find that you're chipping 3/4 of the way down the straightaway with the draft, then you'll be shifting into fifth gear and then downshifting for the corner. On the topic of lines, as you can see, I'm going to go over a bunch of different, well, not a bunch of different, but I'm going to show you all three lines. We don't typically run the wall in 3 and 4 because of the bump, and it just doesn't carry the same amount of momentum as it does in 1 and 2. But this seam that I am running here in 1 and 2, I'll run the same line in 3 and 4. That is the traditional Homestead line from the older scans. Over the years, it seems that the very bottom has been the fastest way around. Recently, as we saw with the Coke race and even some other races here, this seam has been really fast, as it used to be. You can see I hit my fastest lap running it, and I'm going to run the bottom this lap and then go back to the seam to show you the difference just in time. And again, all of this is done in fourth gear, but the seam on both ends of the racetrack seems to be the preferred line again for the most amount of speed that you can get out of the race car. For the corners, typically it's a wider entry into the corners on both ends. So you are going to have that wide entry and try to hold the seam. And then ideally, if you can, you want to keep it a little bit lower than what I just did right there. There was a few laps where I was able to keep it lower. Just the reason for that is if you're swinging out wide on these corners, like if you're really letting the car exit out to the wall, you're really scrubbing your tires unnecessarily. You're adding a little more heat, which is going to lose some grip, and you get a much better drive off the lower you are. So that's typically why you don't try to like swing out to the wall. You want to try to keep it a little bit lower than normal on corner exit. This lap here was more to show off the speed on the wall. Again, we run it in 1 and 2. You don't really see it a lot in 3 and 4 unless you're really comfortable, then by all means go up there. But there's a bump in the middle of 3 and 4 up by the wall that can really upset the car if you catch it wrong, which is why most people avoid it. So you'll see a lot of people run the fence in 1 and 2, which is really fast. You carry a lot of momentum down the back straightaway, and then they'll go back to one of the traditional lines in 3 and 4, whether it's the white line or this seam in 3 and 4 to make their lap time. So coming to complete this lap, we're going to switch to the in-car view for you guys so that you guys get a perspective. Again, it's fourth gear, and I'm just going to run the seam, which I think is the best line around Homestead. Okay, everyone, that's going to do it for this week's video. If you find this video to be helpful, please consider leaving a like. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave a comment and we will get back to them as soon as possible. Last but not least, if you are not already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. That way you can see these videos every Monday once Maconi Setup Shops post these on YouTube for you to see. Alrighty guys, best of luck this week and we'll see you out on the track.